Uh, so good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started, and as people trickle in, hopefully my briefing today will make sense as they come in. But wanted to talk about the DoD Vulnerability Disclosure Program. I think it's something that is not well known or well publicized. I think that it's not getting enough attention. However, you'll find that by the end of my presentation, we will all need to be aware of this in the next coming 24 to 36 months. A little bit about me. I am the founder of Sentinel Defense Group. I have 22 years of service as a senior leader. I'm still in the Army Reserves. I'm assigned to the J7. So this is definitely a joint interagency event here. So thank you for the opportunity. I spent about 3 years at Cisco as a security professional. I have over 5,000 hours of doing technical assessments, and you get to learn a lot, right? You get to really understand what security is and what makes something unsecured, right? It goes beyond just the ones and zeros. We get into the application and how that will work. I have 15 years as a DA civilian doing various IT and cybersecurity positions, former federal contractor with the Army Materiel Command, and really, I just love security, right? All things security. If I could just do this all day for free, I would, but we all have to eat somehow. So today, we're going to talk about, like I said, the Vulnerability Disclosure Program. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk about DC3. I think this is a very underutilized asset that we have within our defense space. So a couple things I want to get out today. One, if you don't remember anything else I said, go to the DC3 website. Right? They have a tremendous website. They have tremendous capabilities. And if you have service members that are eligible for that training, get them in that training, right? If you have anybody that you think that would benefit from that training, get them there. We have the National Guard, the Georgia National Guard chief here. Those CPTs, they get that level of training. And it's free for a service member. They also have some programs that will help the medium-sized companies within the defense industrial base. So, they have a lot of varied programs. It's too much. We could talk all day about it, but please go to the website and look at some of the things they bring. We're going to talk about what a vulnerability disclosure program is. All right, we're going to talk about the hacker-powered security. We're going to talk about some VDP successes, and then we're going to get into VDP and the DoD, and then we're going to have a quick summary. That's a lot to cover in 30 minutes, so if I'm talking fast, I'll try to slow down. And I do want to leave some questions some time for questions at the end. So here we go. The Department of Defense Cybercrime Center, that's DC3, right? It was designated as a federal cyber center. It's comprised of Army and Air Force personnel, and it's really an amazing agency. They provide solutions for cybersecurity, critical infrastructure, law enforcement, document and media exploitation, counterterrorism, and then they do also technical. If you have a technical capability in the DoD that you may need, whether it's to exploit something or maybe even to fix something, right? They're just a wealth of knowledge, right? So if anybody in the security within the DoD, I encourage you to really go look at their website, right? And they serve as the single DoD focal point for receiving and coordinating cybersecurity vulnerabilities, right? That's huge. So what is a VDP, right? What is a vulnerability disclosure program, right? VDP provides the DoD community with an independent world-class team to identify and help mitigate their cyber-based vulnerabilities by leveraging the capability of ethical hackers around the world, right? So when I learn about security and I try to understand what it is at a large level, I try to explain it to my 11-year-old, right? I think she's pretty smart. But if I get too technical, she's just going to say, Dad, it doesn't make sense, right? So when I was explaining to her what a VDP is, I gave the analogy of a neighborhood watch, right? Why is that important, right? We all have things that are valuable. The DoD cannot afford to have to pay for enough service members, civilians, to protect all their front-facing network assets. We just can't do it, right? There are so many of them, right? So they came up with this program about 2016, started with a program called Hack the Pentagon, right? They had it open a couple days, and they said, hey, come in, try to see how secure we are. And that was an eye-opening experience from several reasons. One, I think they were surprised on how many vulnerabilities they were able to identify. Two, the number of people that wanted to participate, right? So this isn't a bug bounty where you pay for, the Pentagon will pay for you or DOD will pay for you to do this. This is all free, right? And you'll see later on the number of people that participate and the number of vulnerabilities that they find. So this is just the definition of a VDP, right? Couple things you must have. You must have a policy. You must have a channel and then a process, right? You want to have a policy, right? Because this VDP is eligible for people around the world, right? You'll see the number one participant for the VDP in 2020 was from overseas. I don't remember the country, but he's not an American citizen. They have several international people that participate, right? If you're a small company, you're interested in cybersecurity, you can go sign up for this, right? You can use some of their tools and their TTPs to see if you can test, to see if you can find some vulnerabilities. Now, there's a couple things that you must do if you sign up for this program, right? As you talk about that process and that channel, you must report what you find, right? That is non-negotiable, right? You also have to agree that you have to stay left of what we call boom, right? You cannot go in and you cannot pivot laterally. You cannot, try to get in the network, right? Once you find that vulnerability, you must stop and report it, right? Now, you will see within DC3, they have the ability to manage thousands, and you'll see the numbers. I was really impressed, thousands of these cases. And I'll tell you why I was impressed here in a little bit later. Hacker-powered security, and here's where we get into the numbers, right? And I'm really excited about this, right? So this is for last year, right? Last year during COVID, they were able to have 25,276 vulnerabilities identified. Now, once these vulnerabilities were identified, they still had to manage them, right? We get into, you see 6% of those were high, right? So you got to get them fixed right away. 11% were medium, and only 51% were low, but there are still vulnerabilities that you have to fix. Another thing I thought was pretty interesting was the number of researchers that participated. Over 2,000 people participated, and this is in a 12-month span, right? Those are huge numbers. And we talk about new vulnerabilities found in 2020, 11,000, almost 12,000 new vulnerabilities, right? So these numbers are staggering. There was no way that the DOD was going to be able to fund an additional, 2,000 researchers just to look at various front-facing network assets, right? But through this VDP program, it shows the effectiveness of crowdsourcing, right? And we have some of the most talented people participating in it. I was asked, why do they participate, right? It's not for money. It's kind of the fame. Right? You want to get they do it for points and credibility, right? If you say, hey, I'm a great white hat, and you want to go to these bug bounties where you can get hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands, and if you're really good, maybe even a couple million, right? You have to have some sort of credibility, right? This is being used as a way to gain credibility, right? And people are all over it. I think there's also a source of people or a group of people that are using this VDP or VDPs like this for training, right? So if you are a CISP or you've gone to a SANS course and you want to see, hey, do I really know what I'm doing, right? Can I really say I'm a security professional before I go do it for a security company? This is a good way to test it. One of the reasons I'm particularly interested in these numbers or impressed with these numbers is I worked at Cisco on the global certification team for about 3 years. My job was to help Cisco business units prepare to sell to the federal government. And we had a list of things that we'd have to go through the business units. Super smart people, they're security professionals, but it would take us, my team at Cisco, a year or more, right? And I don't know that we could find all of these vulnerabilities. and that's scary. Cisco as a security company. Now, again, we had a team of 50 people, so it's different, right? But the number of vulnerabilities that they're able to find and the number of assets they were working with it's really impressive. So I don't want to overlook that. We have a great thing going on here with the DoD. So VDP in the government, right? Why is this significant, right? So if I was back in college, I did go to Syracuse for my master's, this would be the floor stomp, right? This would be the takeaway, right? These memorandums are the memorandums that brought the VDP to existence, right? And a couple things that have been said, right? VDPs are among the most effective methods for obtaining new insights regarding security and vulnerability, right? So what they're saying is it works, right? At 2 years, the issuance of this directive, and this is this memo went to the president, all internet accessible systems or services must be in the scope of this policy, right? So that's somewhere 24 to 2023, I think, right? So if you have a internet accessible tool or anything that's working with the federal government, it will have to be under a VDP. If you are and we're going to talk about this next one, that's the IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act of 2020, right? That is currently being signed and it's being brought into law. And what that's saying is if you're a contractor or a subcontractor and you're working on behalf of the federal government, you also will have to be under a VDP. So this is coming, and it's coming quick, right? We've already shown that it's effective. We've already shown its benefits. But the next step is to let people know, hey, if you're going to keep working with the government, you're going to have to be a part of this, right? So what I've learned when you're dealing with the government, it's always better to be on the preparation side instead of waiting. So again, even if you're in this room, I think this is something that it's worth spending a couple hours now getting sped up, right? How is it going to impact your business, right? The truth is it won't have a significant impact for your day-to-day operations, but understanding what a VDP is, what your requirements are for participating, and then your requirements if vulnerabilities are found on your asset, how you're going to have to fix those. So these are some of the successes for the VDP. I think most of us are familiar with the Ameredeck SafeSite file exchange in 2018. That was a huge thing where Ameredeck had this SafeSite where they would exchange secure data, secure files. And what happened there was a vulnerability with the CAT card that if you did the right thing, then you were able to access everything in that file server, which is a challenge when you start talking about securing data. Then you had the Pulse Secure VPN, and this was another big one. 129 separate critical vulnerabilities reported 2 days after DEF CON started, right? Think about that, 129 critical, right? That's huge. Also, another one that was near and dear to me is the Cisco Adaptive and Security Appliances in July of 2020. If you've been in the federal space, they use a lot of Cisco appliances, and we're proud of that, right? But to find that they had a significant number of vulnerabilities as they were going into some DoD network, that's a challenge, right? They didn't know that they had it, right? They passed the FedRAMP requirements. They passed the NIST 853 certifications. But they still were able to find some critical vulnerabilities that allowed them to even be placed on the network. So talked a little bit about it already, the DIB VDP pilot, right? So it's already passed the feasibility study from Carnegie Mellon. So this is going to, the 12-month pilot started April 5th, right? And what they're saying, and we already mentioned it, is if you're a small to medium-sized business in the defense industrial base, you're going to participate in a collaborative information sharing environment, right? And you're going to have a requirement to disclose vulnerabilities, right? This is something that will affect, the small and medium businesses. Over the last 3 to 4 years, the United States government has lost over $600 billion in intellectual property. One of the generals, the first presenter today, he talked about, the challenges with some of our adversaries, stealing intellectual property. And one of the believed methods is, traversing through subcontractors or the smaller companies and then getting into the DoD infrastructure. So this is something that they believe will help protect the DoD environment as a whole. Another one that I'm pretty proud of is, and I didn't know this, we talked about the election, right? How do we secure our election? Democracy seems to be a fragile thing. Well, it makes me feel good that we have resources out here that maybe we're not even aware of to help protect our democracy. What's even more important to me is that if you have the skills, you can do it, right, through this vulnerability disclosure program. All right, summary. I know I've said a lot in a short amount of time. First, go to the DC3 website, right? If you're here in this room, if you're a part of this community, please take a look at it. I am certain that there will be some sort of information in there that will be of benefit to you. Again, also share the information there. If you're familiar with the VDB program, if you have individuals that would like some more advanced training, please, this is something that I think is very, very worth sharing. Hacker Power Security, it works, right? That crowdsourcing of that knowledge, that's something that I believe that we're going to continue to see, right? We already know that in 2023, it's going to, all federal forward-facing networked appliances are going to be required to be in a VDP, and I think that's going to continue to expand, right? So we don't know what the breadth of it will be, but we know that it's going to continue to expand because of its efficiency, right? Also, we talked about the DIB VDP, the zero cost of entry, right? It doesn't cost you anything to participate in this VDP, right? It's not costing the federal government anything. So this is a win-win for everybody. But the knowledge that they're gaining is priceless, literally. And also, it gives you the ability to reduce your attack surface, right? Everybody has good intentions when you put together your website or anything on the internet. But when you think about, again, we're going to go back to our adversaries. China has thousands, tens of thousands of people that their job is to see if we can get anything out of a federal government through some of our websites. So this is something that has proved very beneficial. Again, I'm excited about it, and I'm pleased to be able to share this information. All right, so we got a little bit of time for questions. I think I'm still on track. Any questions about anything I covered today?
Hey, so where does the crime center fit within the DoD? Like block and line chart, they report up to?
It's not a DISA asset. I'd have to kind of go back and look to see where they fit. I know that they're composed of Air Force and Navy personnel. I don't know who, I know they're federally mandated, but I'm not sure who they report to. Yes, sir.
You talked about that contractors are going to have to start participating.
Mm-hmm.
Is it only the contractor systems, like their web-facing services, that support the DoD?
Yes. Yes.
How much is there going to be like a minimum amount of segmentation required before you say, hey, your other servers, your other web servers that might come to the public on that IP space, they're not going to pose a threat to anything that you have over here too? I mean, where do you draw that line, or how do you make them segment that network off and hold it to that standard?
Right. So that's a great question. So again, Carnegie Mellon just finished that 12-month pilot, and they had select companies within the DIB. So I believe as it's expanded, they will be very specific on who it will apply to, and then, like you said, how they will segment that network. Now, as of what I've been reading, it didn't get into that level of detail. I think when they push that out to a broader audience, they will have very specific information. But I think we're at least, well, I know we're at least 12 months away from that, if not even further.
And how will it apply to cloud services?
Right.
Is it going to be focused at the platform as a service or the software as a service or the infrastructure as a service? I mean, at what level will all three types of clouds be underneath this?
Right. So again, this is me speculating just on my reading. I'm not, and I just want to make sure that I give the disclosure statement. So I'm not involved with the planning for it, but again, I've been doing a lot of reading. I believe that the cloud infrastructure is the next step, right? Just as they talk about expanding it, right now it's just your websites, your network assets. I am certain they're going to move to the cloud, but I don't think they're publishing that just yet. I think that as security professionals, we know that the way of the future is in the cloud. And I also am aware that there are some challenges that DoD is having there, but they want to prove or continue to prove the efficiency of this VDP program just at the network level. And then I think they're going to expand it. And I couldn't tell you exactly how that will be, but I'm pretty certain it's going to come to pass.
Have you seen any decrease in productivity on the websites from all the people hitting it with the tools? Or have you had any issues with somebody trying to participate in the vulnerability disclosure program and they've caused damage to the site because of what they're doing?
So there weren't any reported, but they are very particular that if you're going to participate in the program, that you have to stop once the vulnerability is identified. There is no remediation. There is no, like we said, exploitation of the vulnerability, and there are significant penalties in their policy that if you do. It's pretty significant, but I haven't seen anything that said that they've damaged or degraded the services of the organizations that they're working with.
I'm just curious, it seems like the one with the CAC was such a specific, if you put the CAC in and did do this and this and this, it's like that, somebody was testing that, throwing CACs in and just,
Right.
I can't believe that there wasn't a potential for them to actually break something while they were trying all these different mechanisms.
Right.
CAC in, CAC out.
Right. I don't disagree with you, but they didn't report it that way. I think we had a question. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Again, just a quick certificate of appreciation,
Absolutely.
nothing much, but thank you so much for